All right. So, this Venezuela thing is pretty interesting to me as a unlearned observer of the situation. I've been searching as much as I can through YouTube videos and a little bit of TikTok also to see how Venezuelans feel about what Trump did to their poor country, how he violated their rights and breaking in and doing what he did to their lovely president, as the left would put it. And it's been an interesting but pretty one-sided discoveries. So I'm curious, is anybody else finding anything where there are Venezuelan people who are like, no, this is the worst thing that could happen to us? Or is it pretty much 99% of people are absolutely okay with it, except for the top 1% who benefited from having the dictator, because he was a dictator? And then I get to thinking about things like, if you ask yourself why 7 times, what do you get to? I feel like for some people, they only need to ask themselves why 3 times, and they ultimately land on, because I don't like this person. And that person is typically Trump. Sometimes it's the other way, but it's just because you don't like who did it is why you have an issue with it. Because in my, what you would call research or just searching, I discovered that one of the last things the Biden administration did before or for Venezuela was they put a $25 million bounty on the head of Maduro. And obviously that's something that kind of is just a political move. It's not a real move, because if you think about what that means, if you were to put a high bounty on somebody's head, you are saying, we want anybody anywhere who has eyes on this guy to capture him and turn him in. Okay, so that works if you are some dude in Minnesota or some dude in Texas, and it's like, hey, the government wants you. There's 25 million on your head. You got to lay low. But when you do it over international borders and lands, and you say, hey, this is what we're going to do for the people of Venezuela. We're going to indict your dictator, what they call him, the president, and put a bounty on his head, so that if anybody sees him or gets a chance to see him or hold him, they'll bring him to us and we'll bring him to justice. But who in Venezuela has guns or power enough to do that when the government has taken away the guns of the people? And that is the thing you want to pay attention to. If you take away the guns of the people, then if you look at some of the conflict in Venezuela, you will see how the government deals with protesters. And it's a very one-sided. It looks a lot like kind of like the Palestine-Israel type of thing, where one side's got sticks and rocks, the other side has got tanks and machine guns. So that's what the government does to their people for having a difference of opinion. You can listen to horror stories of torture and X, Y, and Z and whatever else. So this president, this man of the people, if you will, is actually just a dictator. In fact, he's been in power since 2015 or 14 maybe, I think, when the last guy died, and he's stolen all of the elections ever since. So even if nobody votes for him, somehow he's still the leader of the country. And as the left would have it, they believe in democracy and fair democracy and everybody having a voice, including the person that oppresses everybody else's voice, which is fair, right? Because I'm in the same way. Like, so then if you want everybody to have a voice, including the dictator, why do you not want Trump to have a voice? Or Elon Musk have a voice when it's not for you? Because again, we do remember there was a time when Elon Musk was the savior of the leftists because he made cars run on batteries instead of gas. And it was a whole thing. But then when he had a decision to, for whatever reason, combat fraud in the government, then the left turned on him because he was doing it for the wrong person. And in the same sense, when we discover all of this Somalian fraud, all of a sudden, I mean, it's like you are forgetting. I think leftists or liberals are more about how you do it rather than what you're doing. And there's some justice to that. I understand. But there has to be a line that you draw where it's like, okay, well, once we accidentally happen upon this evidence of fraud, it's no longer about how it happened. It's what's happening. It needs to stop, you know? And so getting back on topic, Biden wanted or claimed to want to take Maduro out of power too. He just didn't do anything about it. He made an official statement. He changed some legal stuff. He made a bounty and he let it at that. But nobody in Venezuela had the power or the ability to move him out of there. And then in that case, what are you going to do? You're a citizen. You sneak into the palace. You overthrow the palace if you could. That would take a militia. But if you're just one guy, you sneak in, you kill him. Then what? He wakes up dead. How do you get your bounty money? You don't. You'll get shot on the way out. You don't have a helicopter or a boat. Anybody with that kind of money in Venezuela is benefiting from the way it's ran. Okay, so it was like a smoke and mirrors type of thing as to say, yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're fighting for democracy. You aren't fighting for democracy. You're talking for democracy. And you're not even able to back it up because nobody could pull off removing this guy without an army or a militia. So when it actually gets done by men who just do things, men of action, then you say, yeah, but that violates all of these other things and all these other rights that he has as a human being. Yeah, okay, sure, we violated his rights because we felt that he was violating a whole country's rights and he was threatening to let other countries stand closer to us than we feel comfortable with. That's really what it comes down to. The fact he's got a lot of oil, everybody's there for the oil. I saw a Venezuelan guy on the street saying, everybody claims Donald Trump is only doing this for the oil. And then he said, why do you think the Chinese and the Russians were here? Were they here for the recipe for a rapist? And it was like, yeah, nobody's dumb or blind to the fact that Venezuela is heavy in the oil. And there should be some benefit. Hopefully we get a little kickback. Obviously, we did you a solid, hook us up. But that's just called being a good neighbor. That's called good business. Hey, I'll clear that head off at the top of that demon for you. Then you just remember what I did when the tide was turned. That's nothing wrong with that. That's how we do things everywhere, on every level of friendship or relationship. So the only issue you can have with it is the fact that the person who did it was the bad orange man. And that's not a good enough issue. If you're people of faith, if you're people of integrity, if anything, you understand how the world and the universe, whatever you serve, works, how God works. And he can use the lowest of people to make the most miraculous things happen. How do you think the people feel now that they don't have a dictator there? And obviously we're not just gonna take the one guy and then walk away. It's an unstable state. He was the guy calling the shots. He had a second in command and a third in command, and they had goons. So we are going to go back to Venezuela and stabilize the place and put the right people that are voted to be there in power. Then we can walk away. This is the first step in a lot of things that are going to happen, that we're not just going to walk away and hope they do the best. They don't have any backing. They don't have any power. We're not dumb, okay? So you got to settle down with the whole just because Trump did it, it was bad. Because I watched a YouTube channel where a lady basically juxtaposed liberal views versus Venezuelan views just this morning. And it really struck me because I'm like, there's got to be at least one video where somebody from Venezuela is like, no, this was a bad thing, you know. I still haven't found it yet, but I'm sure there's at least one person in Venezuela who feels like they should speak out and say we hate Trump because he stole our president. But it just doesn't, it hasn't crossed my screen yet, but I'm still looking for it. But what's the ammunition for a liberal to say otherwise? You just assume this or that. You don't take into account what the people who are going through what they're going through. Some people said, why didn't they just vote him out? Or they must have liked it there because they didn't overthrow him. And these are the people that don't realize how much difference firepower makes. You can't overthrow somebody who's got an army with sticks and stones. And so, what are they supposed to do? You know, it's such a crazy idea that people aren't actually looking at what's happening on the ground there, and they just want a blanket statement for how everything should be run. There's subjective stuff that happens in the world. Understandably, we did violate that man's inalienable rights in America, but he's not in America and he's not an American, and there's a difference. Just like me, when I travel to a foreign country and I'm not a national, I don't have the same rights. America is the only place where we get off on that idea of as soon as you're standing here, you have the right to do whatever. Nah, dog, you're not even standing here yet. But now that you are in America, because we brought you here, we're going to try you. We're going to do the American process of how to get you to see some justice. So there's your inalienable rights, okay? Now, that is far more than most people would give. Going the other way around, if somebody was to fly to America and kidnap our president, if he made it out alive, he wouldn't be shown with a bottle of water in his hands and decent clothes, and it would be, you know how it goes. So let's not act like it's some heinous act. We are trying to offset the powers in the world, and he is one of the fulcrums of what's happening there. How pissed can you be that the commander-in-chief wants to do things in the world that put America at a power advantage? That's what he's supposed to do. That's his job. Make America the strongest country. Combat all enemies, foreign and domestic. Like, that's a play. That's a chess move. And now that we've destabilized that dictatorship, we're going to stand in and fortify the place with a democratic rule, hopefully somebody who makes sense for the people, and hopefully they're grateful for what we did, and we can look at them as an ally. That's how you make an ally. And then we will have one less person to look over our shoulder about, because Russia and China are knocking on the door. And as Americans, how does that make you upset? How does that make you feel like this is the worst country? I was seeing in that interview, people were saying they'd rather have Maduro come be our president than President Trump. And that is a statement of ignorance to the highest form. If you consider he's not a president, he's a dictator. And if you consider the state of his country, why don't you just move to Venezuela over the last 10 years and live there? If that's what you thought was better, nobody was keeping you here. This is the place where you can come and go freely, and you can hate this place the whole time. What I don't understand is if you hate America so much, or you hate how it's going so much, and yes, America has some crappy parts. Nobody's perfect, no country's perfect. But what is keeping you here in America if it's such a terrible place? Is it that buyer's remorse, or the point of diminishing return, or something, that you've already got so much invested here that why would you leave? Why not just sit and bicker on your computer? Come live in a country where it's not freedom and liberty and justice for all, and then tell me how bad America is. Okay? We got a nice thing going on. It gets a little rough around the edges, I understand, but we got a nice thing going on. We got a nice thing going on. And you swear you do better to turn it inside out and make it into some liberal paradise where everybody is the same and everybody gets the same, and it's just not the truth. It's not the truth, because not everybody deserves the same. And that's a hard truth that people don't understand. Like, yeah, I'll give you the same opportunity, but that doesn't give you the same outcome. If I'm standing in the same place as a white dude and we both want this job, then we both have the opportunity to go get it. The outcome may be different because it's only one slot and there's two of us. Whatever that depends on, is it because I know the guy or he knows the guy, it's probably what's going to come down to who's more likable, because we might have the same resume. It just is what it is. It's not going to be fair. But I do have the opportunity. And if I'm given the opportunity, just like walking up to a chick in a bar, you have the opportunity to say something. Whatever you say may make you look stupid or may make you look attractive. But you have the opportunity, okay? So we have to really cherish what we have and stop trying to tear it down. And I'm not saying that we don't need liberals either. Again, there's some truth to their idea of it's not what you do, but how you do it. As any man who deals with women understands that, like, yeah, there's a truth to that. You just can't say it. You got to say it the right way. You got to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, we understand that. And yeah, there is a very important tension between liberals and conservatives that has to remain. We can't do it without y'all. Yes, I'm a conservative. But for people who swear they don't carry hate in the way they move, you seem to be only motivated by hate or dislike, which is short of hate, but still right there with it. Like, besides the fact you don't like Trump, everything that he's doing that your president was trying to do, what other issues do you have with it? Every president since Reagan or however long ago they say has been talking about fortifying the borders and immigration. Yet when a Trump president comes in and finally does it, now it's an issue. Obama was big on immigration. He also didn't do anything about it. Okay, so maybe you just like to be lip service, but you don't like to actually see presidents do anything. But I'm a big fan of a president that actually does something. I don't like any presidents. I haven't liked any of them because I don't 100% agree with what it probably took for them to get there. The difference with Trump was he didn't need anybody's money when he got there, which made him offensive to everybody. And I appreciated that about him. He doesn't have to shake hands to fund his campaign, so nobody can tell him what he has to say. And as you can see, he's been quite a loose cannon both times. I'm okay with that. This time it seems a little more, how do you say, deep state-ish, but overall, he's still pretty loose cannon. He still says the wrong thing a lot. And I appreciate a man that's got some flaws, because that's how we know he's human, okay? Either way, is there some perfect world that you think you can build where there will be a leader that has no flaws and there will be all problems solved? It doesn't exist. And that's not to say give up on trying to make things better, but give up on the idea of perfection. Where you stand, what you have power or dominion over, do the best in that. Can't stand a fat liberal keyboard slob, just like I can't stand a fat conservative keyboard slob. Do something with yourself. Make the best version of yourself in your house, and then bring that to the community that you live in. If you don't know your neighbors, if you don't know your mayor, if you don't know your city council, what are you really doing besides complaining? You know, so live and let live then. If you're not actually in the fight, you're just somebody out here bickering because now we have the ability to have an audience like this. That doesn't make you right. That doesn't make me right. Anything that I say is at least 1% flawed, and it's probably closer to 40%, you know, especially when I get into the long talks. Probably got 40% error, maybe more, okay? But I'm doing the best I can. I'm speaking with the most truth that I can understand and comprehend at this given moment. And I believe that what we did in Venezuela was the right thing for more people than it was the wrong thing for people. Okay? Because again, nothing you do is going to suit everybody. Everybody's on a spectrum with any given topic, and there's far extremes, and there's like a general bell curve in the middle. And I believe that this satisfied a larger portion of people than it dissatisfied. So I'm gonna roll with it. I'm cool with it, you know. And then I talked to people in Bolivia. Well, I got a person in Bolivia that I talked to, and she told me, she said they don't like him either. They don't like Maduro. You know, and that's right next door, right? So I'm trying to figure out where do liberals really get off with thinking that we've done a disservice to Venezuela? It just doesn't make sense, except for the root of the cause of the issue, which is it was a guy that's got orange skin and terrible hair, and that's the only reason why it's a problem. Military wise, what a freaking awesome mission. What a cool job. Medals all around. No casualties. Come on now. What a sweet opportunity to do something you'll never get to do again, probably, you know? And so, I don't know. I just don't see the bad in it. I see that a dictator thinks he's God. Really, not like Trump thinks he's Trump thinks he's powerful. I think a dictator thinks he's God. Nothing can touch me. I got it all, and everybody listens to me. And he crushes the people for a decade and a half. And then somebody kicks him in his nuts. And then people are like, you just can't kick people in the nuts. You absolutely can kick people in the nuts. And it should probably happen more often. I don't know. So if you do find any footage or any videos about people who disagree, Venezuelan people who disagree with this, I would love to know. Hit me up or drop a link in the joint so I can see the other side of the coin. There's no way this is all unanimously a good thing in Venezuela. I'm just curious what the people look like, what the people dress like that don't agree. And I'm not talking about like news media coverage. I'm talking about like real people, citizens. Because obviously, depending on whether you watch Fox or CBS or whatever, CNN, you're going to get a different lean to the story. But on the ground, people, I'm just wondering if there's some outpouring of like a large amount of people who miss their sweet dictator, you know? Yeah. Well, that was long enough. Love it.